I wasn't gonna do another one for the line work on this, but I figured since it's the first videos that I might as well just make one that's like pretty fully in depth. So um, for shoulders, I try and make it like shoulder ball, and the bicep is really all I do until it gets to the elbows. I don't get too uh, intricate with the muscle work and stuff. Just try and work with the lines you already have down and just make them look a little bit more cleaned up. I'm just pretty much doing the same process that I've done in the other two videos, but there's some different stuff in here, so I'll just put it in there. Obviously, for a girl's chest, they need to be the same size, so try and make them proportionate to however she's standing, but same thing with the eyes. I mean, even if they're not exactly the same size because of the angles, they still want to look to your head like it's kind of the same size object, just at that angle. So I'll be thickening up the lines up front generally and inking the thicker objects are the ones that are closer to the viewer. So if her shoulder is like coming above her chest, then where her arm comes down, that line should be thicker than the line of the chest that runs into it, and it makes your eye kind of think it's in the front, and it does work. I think any inking you see, they'll kind of be applying that. Some people will put like a border, but that's not quite the same thing. That's just a little bit of style. I'm talking about more for like the structure. Like this line that overlapped here, you want to make sure that your line's dead end. Like you don't want them to cross over because it'll look like it'll make your eye think that something's going on there that it's really not. So you want to get in there and try and sometimes I know it's hard, but just try and make it as clean and close to your other line as you can. That's another thing. If you're working in layers and those are on a different layer, it makes it a lot easier. So just make another layer and then start working, and then when you have to go to erase the ones that overlap, you won't have to do what I'm doing right now, and that's stay like super precise to the drawing. Sometimes it's nice for varying the thickness though, like I said earlier, like where the left side of her chest comes onto the right side, it's a little bit thicker so you can tell which one's in front, and it's like the eraser helps that. You can make a big line and then kind of erase it in the spots that you don't want it to be big, and it looks a little bit better, I think, a little more professional. Now I'm just adding a couple little details to her clothes. I kind of like panned back, and I mean it looked good, but I was like, everything, any drawing you do, even if you're not gonna give them like earrings and this huge hat and all this stuff around them, I mean, you still want to put a little bit of detail into it. Like when somebody looks at your drawing, you want the first time they look at it, you want them to think like, is it good or not? So that's where your proportions and like your sketches come out. And then the second time you want them to look, you want them to kind of like see something the first time they didn't see. So the first impression they get is like, okay, it's good. And then if they really like it, they'll continue to look at it, and you're giving them with the details a little bit of something more to look at whenever they're spending more than just a glance at your art. And I guess what I'm getting at is it is kind of the way to make people look at your art more than just a little glance. Like having nice little details it just helps it out. So try and add a few. That's what I'm trying to say is like you don't have to add a whole lot, but don't never have any. I don't think it unless you're going for like a super just I don't know really simple kind of outfit like a bathing suit or something, like just kind of put some kind of flair in there or whatnot. So I'm just lining up the tattoo, trying to get it a little bit where I want it. Apparently she's a bad girl. Somehow I feel like I'm down with that. Giving her like the tendons on your neck, and you can see the collarbone below that. I laid that out earlier. that's usually from the neck down to the chest. So those are the marks you're usually going to want to make. They're kind of like the upper torso's version of a face. Like you need to be making some kind of mark in the neck, maybe an Adam's apple for the guy stuff, and like and the collarbones, not always, but a lot of times. So just throw those in there. It makes it look a lot better and like kind of makes it more realistic. Like if she's pulling up her shoulder, her collarbone's kind of going to stick out a little bit because that's what happens when you pull up your arm, you know what I mean? So it'll, it'll make a line. You don't have to like try and draw it, but just make a little mark, kind of like with hair strands and stuff. Just kind of throw a little something in there to give it indication. So when an eye hits it, it just makes her look like she's kind of pulling her chest up forward a little bit more. But there was something I didn't hear too that I really wanted to touch upon. I just figured this out recently because, like I said, I'm self-taught and I just play around with them. Obviously, you're gonna want to clean up anything that goes behind stuff. Like I'm getting rid of her extra hair behind the back, and then anything that's supposed to be behind the hair, I'm gonna erase as well. But what I do is I'll like grab one of the lines, and like if you circle it with your lasso tool for lines that you think are too thin, and you want to kind of pop them out. Like right now, I'm thinking the right side of her bangs is just, it doesn't look even to the left side. The left side looks a little thicker. So I'm gonna grab the lasso tool, and I'm literally, it's like line hunting. You're just trying to grab the lines that you think are thin and kind of dodge the ones you think are thick. Like her chin, I'm gonna go around. I don't want that. But then you just copy it and then paste it, and you'll see I paste like 5 right here to show you that it gets really thick pretty quick. So you can just kind of go between like Control Z and Control Y if you're using Corel, and it's undo and redo, and you can just keep going like back and forth till you're like, oh yeah, that's about the thickness I want. Same thing up here with her bangs and like her hairline. It's supposed to be a thin line, yes, but it looks too thin compared to all the lines around it, and I need it to pop, and gives it a good border, because I know later on when we paint this, there's gonna be color there, and so I'm kind of right now I'm doing the bangs, but I'm gonna do the hairline next, obviously, because it's very thin, and like it'll give me a better border of when the colors meet. It won't look so weird when they come together, because you'll kind of be able to see the lines, and as part of a cartoonish style. So what am I doing now? Oh, I'm merging it all down into one layer, because apparently I was having trouble just figuring out what was on what. Once I get happy with what I want, I just merge it. And for this process especially, I'm trying to grab just the lines. I know which lines I need to get, so I need them all just to be on one layer. So you thicken that up a little bit. It's a really neat trick, because it keeps the same like mark that you made. It makes your stroke look the same, so you don't have to, like, sometimes I think a lot of you guys that work digitally will understand where I'm coming from. Like when you get a stroke and then you kind of want it a little thicker or something, it's so hard to go back over it. So that's just a little trick that I learned, and that's pretty much it for the line work. I'll probably paint this like maybe another day, and then upload the video for that.